bedtime story for Theta. Once upon a time, there lived a man named Stormbad. Once, let me try that again. I can't even get my own character's name right. Once upon a time, there lived a man named John Crowley. He was a regular, average, everyday man. He went to work. He had a wife, 2 kids. He had a car with an embarrassingly large lease payment, a very large insurance payment every month because he gets into accidents almost every single year. And he one day decided, instead of going to his 9-to-5 job as a accounting executive on Wall Street, he decided that he wanted to do something else with his life. So he went to a man he knew in Minnesota, a man who crafted legendary medieval gear and got himself an armor set. He then went to a blacksmith out in South Dakota, this man who lived in the pines of South Dakota by himself, forged weapons of incredible talent and skill and finesse. Well, Crowley decided he needed an epic sword, and so he hired the blacksmith to build this epic sword. Cost him quite a pretty penny to get this sword. But the blacksmith, using all of his skills and talents, the blacksmith nobody ever heard of before, made this sword for Crowley. This sword of incredible power and skill and finesse and beauty and amazingness. It held an edge like no other sword and could be used to destroy the evils of the world. When Crowley held the sword to the skies, donned in his armor, he cried out in horror as the lightning struck him. But instead of dying, John Crowley transformed into the man we know as Stormwraith Sexbad, killer of evil, vanquisher of foes, the naughtier of the naughtiers. He went off on his adventures, vanquishing foes and destroying evil, righting wrongs and doing good. But one day, Stormwraith Sexbad went into a battle he couldn't possibly win. He knew he had to save the world from the incredibly vicious and totally not gay Mecha Chihuahua of Burbank, California. Mecha Chihuahua was terrorizing the world. He had destroyed hundreds of cities, murdered millions of people. Well, Stormwraith Sexbad had had enough of that. He faced his foe face to face in what would be an epic battle of proportions that could only be described as taking place within a half a city block. The Mecha Chihuahua bit first, but the armor of Stormwraith Sexbad kept him alive and well. He pierced Mecha Chihuahua. Mecha Chihuahua was almost no more. But then Stormwraith Sexbad heard a buzzing as his sword pierced Mecha Chihuahua. He heard this loud buzzing noise. It grew and it grew and it grew until finally Dirt Bee burst forth from Mecha Chihuahua. This was no ordinary bee. This was a bee that could do. This was a bee that could do cartwheels in the air. Stormwraith Sexbad was taken aback, unable to comprehend a bee of such proportions, of such magnitude. They fought and they fought and they fought for hours. But finally, our hero, Stormwraith Sexbad, was badly wounded in battle as Dirt Bee flew up towards him and scared him. Afraid of getting stung, Stormwraith Sexbad fell down and impaled himself on the knee with an arrow. That would be the end of his adventuring days. And to this day, Dirt Bee roams the countryside, looking for victims to inflict pain upon, or confusing them for flowers because he's trying to get honey. I mean, he is a bee that does somersaults, for God's sakes. We're not exactly sure what's wrong with him. Needless to say, Stormwraith Sexbad retired to the countryside, where he now practices cookery. And you can find out the rest of his story in boxes 2. The end.